It is a new era in Osun State as Senator Ademola Adeleke and Kola Adewusi have been sworn in as the 6th democratically elected governor and deputy governor of the state. At the swearing-in ceremony, which held at the Osogbo Sports Stadium, Ademola Adeleke promised to run an open door and all-inclusive administration. Our Osun State correspondent, Rafiu Hamid, was there and filed in this report.
It's the swearing-in ceremony of Ademola Adeleke and Kola Adewusi as the governor and deputy governor of Osun State. The People's Democratic Party presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, his vice, Ifeanyi Okowa, some governors under the platform of the PDP, traditional rulers, party faithful and supporters are all here. At exactly 11:30, Ademola Adeleke arrives at the stadium. Kola Adewusi was the first to take oath of office as the deputy governor, which was administered on him by the state chief judge, Adewusi.
Of my duties as deputy governor.
This was followed by that of Ademola Adeleke, flanked by his wife. Then the parade. In his inaugural speech, Ademola Adeleke promised to address various challenges facing the state in different sectors.
As critical, the boost creation, job opportunities, and food security through innovative agricultural reforms, agricultural value.
He promised not to jeopardize the confidence reposed in him.
For the purpose of emphasis, I will be a governor for all Osun people, regardless of differences in language, faith, political affiliation, or any consideration. Welcome to a new Osun State, the state of the living faith.
Party members believe the governor will succeed with competent hands around him.
It's a thing of joy, and I want to say on behalf of the governor that we will not disappoint the aspirations of the people of Osun State. We will give him all that is necessary for him to succeed as governor of Osun State.
Senator Adeleke will do very well for the simple reason that he has a lot of support. Everybody will support him, both young and old, women, men, everybody. And I believe he will deliver on the promises he has made to the people of Osun State.
Ademola Adeleke of the PDP was declared winner of the July 16 governorship election by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The All Progressives Congress had been in the saddle in the state in the last 12 years. Rafiu Hamid, TVC News, Osogbo.
Meanwhile, Governor Ademola Adeleke has made his first appointments. He appointed Alhaji Kazim Akinleye as his chief of staff and appointed the former chairman of Osogbo local government, Alhaji Teslim Igbalaye, as the secretary to the state government. The governor also appointed Malam Olawale Rashid as his spokesperson. Well, joining me in the studio to discuss the task ahead of Governor Adeleke is columnist, former Labour reporter and editor Funmi Komolafe. Good morning.
Good morning. It's my pleasure.
Right. I also have in the studio the executive director, journalists for Democratic Rights, Adewale Adewe. Good morning. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Now, let's begin with the event itself. What were your impressions of, the statement the new governor, made when he was being sworn in? He made several statements and he, made some changes to the government. What were impressions of what he also did?
Yes, I took time to read his inaugural address or speech. Well, he mentioned that he will be labor-friendly, and I'm impressed by the fact that rather than, as some people have been suggesting, sack the permanent secretaries that Governor Yetola appointed in his last days, he went for a review. And that is the way to go. You cannot, because you are governor and then these are career civil servants, and there's a process to it. So I'm impressed that by that first step that he took, let there be a review. He said, return to status quo, which is fine, that's not sack. Then after the review, those who are qualified should be given the appointment because this is a career job. They are not political office holders. Another point he made, he said he will be labor friendly. Now, that's for a son of a unionist. His father was a unionist.
Right.
Baba Adeleke was an official of the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives. Incidentally, I knew the man. So, as the son of a unionist, let's see how he will be able to harmonize workers' interests along with developmental interests and balance with the income of the states. Because to the credit of Governor Oyetola, we didn't have protests, workers' protests throughout his tenure. And the onus is on Adeleke to maintain that. Okay, but I was surprised that in his speech, he was silent on gold mining in Osun State. And that's it's an economic basket, if I might say, for the states. He was silent on it. Is it that he's not going to do anything about it or that he doesn't know it exists? Even if he's going to privatize it, we should know. But I think he has started on a good note by saying that those permanency, all those appointments, everybody reverts to status quo pending a review. And I'm particularly pleased with the reversal of the name of the state to Osun State.
Really?
Yes. There is no state that is the state of in Nigeria. Every state, Osun State, you know Osun State, a governor came and changed it to Gateway State. Of course, it was reversed. So the name of the state is Osun State. I think I agree with him 100% on that. And I hope that he will not, because of political differences, discontinue projects that are in the making, that Oyetola has started. The onus means to complete it. He has to complete it. And how he will manage the state, because to the credit of Oyetola again, he never borrowed.
Yes, he mentioned
that.
He prided himself on that.
That is remarkable in governance in Nigeria, not just for Osun State. He didn't borrow. Adeleke will have to find his feet to fit into those big shoes of a non-borrower and one that can meet the financial obligations of the state without going and borrowing.
All right, let me come to you now. Do you think that the statements he made were bold and critical to the advancement of the state? Does it give a sense of direction that he's bringing for the state?
Yes, I think first of all, one is to congratulate, the people of Osun State and also Nigerians, because since 1999 we have been having civilian to civilian transition,
right,
without any intervention from the military. And I also think the worst civilian government is better than the most benevolent military regime. So we need to congratulate Nigeria. In spite of all the tribulations, the afflictions, we must continue to, allow democracy to thrive and re-energize itself. So I read the statement, and he said he has 5 cardinal points, which I think are quite impressive. He spoke about education, and I'm also impressed that he said Amotekun, that he will re-energize it, because there were fears that probably, he will ban Amotekun and all that. He said he will ensure that they work with hunters. And he also said something very important, tourism. Because Osun State is one of the most cosmopolitan states in the Southwest. Is the custodian of the source of Yoruba civilization, which is Ile-Ife.
Yes.
And one of the most striking universities, in Nigeria, University of Ife, is also there. So if you look at tourism, Osogbo, it's a huge potential that can bring a lot of money into into Osun State. Look at Ife, for instance. Ife has been existing as far back as 9th century. And there's a palace there that was built around 10th century. Look at Buckingham Palace. It was built only in 1703. but it's more popular, more famous. People come from all over the world that would just want to go and see Buckingham Palace. You cannot say the same thing of the palace in Ile-Ife. So I think that kind of potential. Oduduwa was buried somewhere. The burial ground is still there. It's a potential, source of tourism. A lot of kings of Benin were buried also in Ife at a particular point in history. So that city needs to be brought back. I know a lot of people that all over the world, from Brazil, Haiti, they want to go back home. They want to see their roots.
Yes.
And you go there and not impressed. So if he can live up to that, I think it's going to be a great thing. So I'm impressed that he mentioned that. However, statements of politicians, they are rhetorics. You have to wait in terms of praises to see whether, the politician that comes out with the best statement may not necessarily be the one that we, at the end of the day, that we perform to the expectations of the people. So we need to give him time to see whether we walk his words, because there are two perspectives of looking at him. Some people, are looking at his rich political history. His father was a member of the Action Group and also the UPN. He was a senator. He has a very good reputation in that state, And also his senior brother, when he was governor just for 2 years, there were things the Polytechnic category and so many others that could be linked up to him. But there are also a perception that in his own case, people see him as a dancer, somebody in the realm of music and art. And of course, governance, goes beyond the realm of politics and comic. If not, we'll have asked the Budaya to come and be the president of Nigeria. Of course, they are making their own contribution in their own right. But governance and politics is a different thing entirely. So there is that fear that will he be able to perform. But as I've said, only time will tell. But by making announcements on the first day of resumption shows that in a way he's prepared for governance. On the state of Osun, my own take is that whether it's Osun State or state of Osun, I think he robbed the people of the state the excitement of even debate, because we have a parliament. We also have to just announce it unilaterally, because I know that when Adegbeshola made that statement, people there were meetings, there were consultations before that decision was taken. So I think if he had wanted to change it, I would have expected the people to have made input. We have a parliament that is there, because it's a major decision that I felt there should have been broader consultation, so that at the end of the day, your position will have been seen to be informed by democratic input from the institutions in that state. Anyway, I also think it needs to be a bit more careful. The parliament in Osun State is still largely controlled by the APC, and they will still be there till next year, June. So he needs to learn how to walk that, blade edge, so that it will not create a situation where he may have challenges, with the party that is still controlled by the APC. And I think that his coming to power was just by sheer luck. If not because of the internal contradictions within the APC, it will be very difficult for him to... You think
so?
Yeah, I think so. It will be more difficult. But now that he's the governor, he needs to be to realize that it's a huge opportunity that he has had on his hand. Osun State, no governor since 1999 has spent 2 consecutive terms except Adegbeshola.
Yes.
All of them have come with only 1 term, and then they were booted out. So now that he's going to have 1 term, he needs to ensure that he performs extraordinarily so that they can command public support.
One would expect that the road towards his being inaugurated would have made him see the fact that this is an opportunity he wouldn't want to throw away and would want to put his best foot forward.
Well, I think that he is conscious of that, and seemed to have started using experienced hands. For instance,
with the appointment?
In the case of the local government.
Yeah.
Now, the court has helped him. The court nullified that election conducted by Governor Yetola. And he said the most senior civil servant, he didn't put his political appointees. He could have done that on the eve of his election and just announced it. He didn't do that. He said the most senior civil servant should take over. That means he appreciates the fact that, and I don't know any governor that can do anything without the civil service structure. Yes, whether you like it or not, you need the civil service structure to perform. As to the state of Osun and Osun State, please, may I remind us that he said, as stated in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the name is Osun State. I do not think that even
He
if the
needed
state,
the input of the people.
I don't think that he needed even to go to any House of Assembly, except if the Constitution is amended. The Constitution has not been amended. The states are listed.
To address the names of states.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Names of states clearly stated in the Constitution. And if that be the case, I don't think he has done anything wrong. Like I said, I maintain that I support what he has done. But what struck me, another point that struck me in his 5-point agenda, he said he will make sure that women are appointed. Women are given gender sensitivity. I saw that. He said it, that women will be given a fair share of appointments in the state. And that's commendable. Of course, a man who has 2 wives. And yeah, he is the first governor.
You think it is born out of that?
Well, the pressure is from both sides now. It's not, and you know what women are? Now, he is the first one to come out with 2 wives publicly. No one ever did it. Even Marwa. When Marwa was governor in Lagos, he had 2 wives. Although he didn't take any oath, it was an appointment. But Marwa declared that he had 2 wives. But this one came out with the 2 wives. He even mentioned them, Ngozi and Titi, in his speech. So that, I think, should make him live up to his words. I expect that the women will...
Because I was going to say, many politicians who have made this promise have never lived up to those words.
I agree with Wale. We have to give time. They are sweet talkers. But action is another thing. For instance, just this morning now, there's been riot killings in Osun State because amongst the road transport union members, some people say, oh, your era has gone, these are era, and then they are macheting people. I think as governor, you should put a halt to that immediately because he is governor of the state, everybody. And I don't know how he's going to handle security. Before he became governor, his security man allegedly killed 2 people in a day. And the man confirmed and said only 2 people were killed. That is not a good sign.
Like you said.
And we didn't hear him condemn it. He never issued a statement to condemn it or say he will look into it. Because those lives are gone and they can't come back. So he needs to see himself as governor of the entire state and not a PDP governor. Yes, he's elected on the platform of PDP, but he's governor of everybody. Some people didn't vote. Some people don't belong to any party. But they're indigenous of Osun State.
Absolutely.
And Osun is a state that is rich, has a lot of intellectuals, a lot of people that he can learn from if he is humble and willing to learn. Because absolute power can corrupt absolutely.
Now, he spoke about addressing the matter of injustices in the state, that he will address that. And I'm wondering what you would want to see him do at addressing the injustices in this state of Osun, or Osun State. He has reversed it, actually.
Well, it's difficult to construct his mind from his speech. If addressing injustice is looking at the accounts of the state and also looking at what has been those things that the previous governments did that probably they are not popular decisions. I think that is legitimate. He needs to do that. But if the idea is to witch hunt just for to score political points, I don't think that would be good. But I don't think there's anything wrong.
When you say witch hunt, how do you mean? We'll look at that anyway.
Because in prison we have seen in the past that people just, maybe some people have been appointed, then you just sack them. Amotekun commander has been appointed, you just dismiss him, because you think it's not a member of your party or it's not going to dance to your tunes, So, but if it's a genuine attempt to revitalize the state and to look at the records of the state, I think there's nothing bad there. I think every governor, every new government should be encouraged to do that.
Now, before we went on the break, we were speaking about the governor saying that he was going to address injustices. And Mr. Adeoye spoke about the fact that if it is not to witch hunt anyone, then it's a good cause. And I'm wondering if the panel he has set up to perhaps look into the allegations of looting and all of it is also a way of saying he is trying to say he's not witch hunting anyone because he has said he is instituting a panel to address the issues of looting in the state.
What evidence has he that there was looting? Because I think that is starting from a jaundiced position. If you want to look into finances, you can do that. He has
Without
not
setting up a panel.
No, he can set up a panel. But he has used the word looting, which means you have established a fact.
Allegations of
before you set up a panel. Why are you setting it up? If you have established looting, go ahead and state it, that it was done here and here and here and there. He needs to be very careful. He needs to be very careful. Because with all due respect to him as elected governor of Osun State, people don't rate him high intellectually. That's the truth. You remember that it was after he lost the first election, he went to the university to get a degree, if you remember.
Yes.
So he's not rated very high. And people have been saying, I've heard from people in Osun that we like him because he doesn't know much.
Really?
And, oh yes, I've heard that. I've heard that. And we then can have our way, unlike what they didn't get with Oyetola. Oyetola was in charge. He knew all the loopholes about finances and how to plug, and he did it so well. And the trust civil servants, a lot of them were not happy with that, because for them, I mean, whatever they were taking under the table had been blocked. They are happy that this governor does not know so much. I don't know his record of ever working in the public service or even in a private sector company. I don't have that record. It's not stated as part of his CV. So he needs to be very careful. Otherwise, a trap has already been set for him.
And this statement he has made.
He will fall into it if he's not careful. Because you are alleging looting. Looting where? Tell us where. For a governor that didn't borrow throughout, where did the looting? If you know, say it. You don't need to set up a panel. Just come out and say it. The way Oyetola said, I left XYZ amount. You too say, it is what you found though, and this is the reason you are investigating.
Perhaps that's why he freezed the account.
Any person will freeze the account, but to his own disadvantage. Because you can't run government without finances. He will soon realize that that's not the way to run government. You can't freeze all accounts. There should be one that you will use as you come in as governor. So that's why I said he's inexperienced. I'm sorry to use those words, but clearly he doesn't have the experience in governance. Has he ever been in local government chairman? Has he ever been in the civil service? No. And I heard him say he will grant local government autonomy. That is laughable. Well, let's see it happen. Let's see it happen. Maybe when they conduct election, let's see it happen. We are waiting. I've not seen any governor in the Federal Republic of Nigeria that has granted full autonomy to local government. Not one, to the best of my knowledge. And when I say not, I'm not talking only in terms of finances, control, everything. The governor is the chief executive of the state. So we are watching, we are waiting, but he needs to be careful. He needs to tread softly. He needs to appoint very competent, and like I said, Osun is filled with knowledge. A lot of people have knowledge there, but will he be humble enough to tap into those resources? Alhaji Hassan Sumonu is still there.
Yeah.
That's the state. He lives in Osogbo there.
Right. I want to bring up something she mentioned, Mr. Adewusi, that I want you to address. His inexperience in court. Are you concerned that perhaps this could come to play in his time as governor in Osun State, and how he can manage it, so to speak, to move the state forward?
Well, the fourth line of democracy is that the vote of a professor and that of a shoemaker has the same quality. So, and it means you can just pick any, it's just voting, you know. And especially here that, you know, the search for knowledge has diminished over the years. And it affects the way people even make their choice. And when he was campaigning, we all listened to him, that, you know, wow, there's money, you know. I watched him throughout the campaign. There was nothing inspiring in terms of speaking about environment, how to address environmental problem. You know, she had just mentioned the mining industry.
Yes.
Many other. I listened, I monitored that campaign, and I was surprised. And even over time, I've not read any inspiring speech written by him, either published by Punch or Guardian or whatever newspaper, compared with others that were before him. So in terms of intellectual capacity to manage a complex state like Osun State, I think there's a deficiency in that area. And also when you are talking in terms of people around him, you know, when Awo was, you know, Awo was, in fact, University of Ife was where he picked his eggheads. People like Zeke, you know, look at people that surrounded Awo, people like Odia Ofemu, people like Professor Aluko. Then you know that even if this man was not that intelligent, he will never be short of the best ideas. So even when you look at the circle, you know, the people that, you know, surround him, you know, you keep on wondering, you know, with his, you know, his, you know, hype, you know, his, you know, sign, it's a hippie sign. So there's a problem in that area. And governance, you know, it involves a lot of deep thinking. It involves a lot of burning candles in the night. You know, it involves a lot of research. It's not music, it's not dancing. So I think that is going to be a kind of, there's a shortcoming already. And I believe that we cannot run away from that. But if he will be, you know, humble enough to surround himself with intellectuals, a kitchen cabinet made up of thinkers, not, you know, hustlers, not people that are scrambling for what they will eat, he may be able to overcome that hurdle.
Would he be able to identify them?
That is another problem. If he's humble enough to look at, you know, brains, thinkers, look at when Ashwaju was in Lagos there. So that even if he goes abroad for 2 weeks, maybe they will not even know. Because look at the kind of people. The first thing he did in 1999 was to look for the best hands in the media, you know, in people like Ochibajo, in the legal profession, you know, technocrats, and you know, the first 4 years, you saw the impact on that state, and even now we are still seeing that impact. So you cannot run a governance based on instinct. You know, you have to run it based on a well-grounded ideological ideas informed by knowledge. So I think there's a deficiency in that area, and the only way he can overcome it is to be humble, bring himself down. You know, build up a kitchen cabinet where he will sit down, and those people will sit on top and decide how that state has to be run.
Right. Earlier we spoke about the fact that he says that he's going to address labor matters and look into labor, and you spoke about how you harmonize workers' interest. What would you want to see him do to achieve that?
First is he has to sustain the legacy of Oyetola by paying workers as and when due. Then the issue of pension, he has to pay pensioners. Oyetola did that. We didn't have riots, we didn't have protests.
But at some point, they complained about he not paying pensions. Oyetola, I saw a report this month.
Maybe later. But you can't compare the protests or complaints with what happened during Adegbesola's tenure. Adegbesola's tenure, the state was practically paralyzed because every week you had all these protests. So he needs to do that. And he mentioned something that I like. He said for teachers, there will be in-service training. He spoke about quality of education. So I want to believe that he appreciates good education and that Osun will be moved up the ladder from its rating currently. Fine. But there's more to it. Apart from wages, what about the working conditions? Adegbeshola brought his pack. There was a Okmoimo. You remember that tax issue? What happened to it?
School feeding
How long
program,
was it sustained? School feeding program. Yeah, those ones were there. Then Governor Oyetola had reversed the one uniform policy, which I think was wrong. Because you deprive people of their means of livelihood and their own work. But let's hope that he will take a good look at education with in-service training and employ qualified people, but also the ability to pay. Because when you don't pay people and they work, it becomes a problem. As I said, his father was a unionist. So people can remind him, we know your father. We want to see you what you, his son, we do. Give that to Aregbesola was, I mean, he was ideologically focused. Let me put it straight that way. There's no ideology in Governor Adeleke. I can't see anything except dancing.
And perhaps we could give him time.
We are going, yes, of course, he will be given time, but, well, he said he will hit the ground running. Let's believe he's doing that. We are watching. Like I said, there are a lot of people from whom he could learn in Osun State. And then he should go and shed that identity of an unserious dancer. Governance is not party. It's not about dancing. Whether you know how to do that, that's not what the people want. It's development. They want progress in their lives. So he has to do that. Where there needs to be training, not just for teachers, there should be training. And I think if he will learn, he needs to learn a lot from what Asiwaju did in Lagos State. In Lagos State before, if you wanted to pay tenement rate, one local government that will just take a bribe from you and you go away. But when he came, it became, you must pay to the banks. So he needs to be humble and learn from people who are ahead of him politically and educationally, even experience. He just doesn't have the experience. But if, like Wale said, and I said earlier, if he's humble and if he can identify.
Yes, because that's a critical aspect.
That's why I mentioned that in dealing with workers' issue, he has to his credit Alhaji Hassan Sumonu, the first president of Nigeria Labour Congress. He is in Osogbo, he's a citizen of that. He lives there till today. So there are people he can learn from, how if he will be humble enough. Because when people get into government house, they become something else, some of them.
Let's look at education, improving on education in the state. What is the way forward?
Well, first of all, I think it needs to sustain the appointment, because
go back to it.
Yes, it turned out to be one of the best. The computer was a kind of multi-purpose means
Tab,
of learning.
yes, that was given to children.
And it was one of the first after Ekiti State started it in Osun State. And I think it was one of the best things that any government could do. And also the school feeding program. I remember that the first month that project was introduced, the school enrollment increased by 28,000 in Osun State. Poor people, the poorest of the poor, they came out because once you address the problem of feeding, it's not about how much you pay, how much you pay. It's not, but once children know that if I go to school, there's lunch for me, and you'll be able to discover that a lot of talents that are out there that don't have access to education, if you're able to tap them through that, providing food for them, it will go a long way to realize the potentials of a lot of people in that state. And I also think the area of development agenda for Western Nigeria, which began in 2012 or so, the new government needs to tap into that because it's a free way of getting research on several areas of governance provided by DON. So if you can key into that development agenda for Western Nigeria, there's a template already. If you can key into that program, it will help him to resolve a lot of problems. He also needs to learn to work with the federal government. There are a lot of projects in that Osun State I cannot do alone. For instance, Ibadan to Ilesha highway, it's one of the worst in the country. So he needs to know how he will work his way, to partner with the federal government through the Minister of Works and Fashola. Thank God it's an accessible minister, so that road can be fixed. Osun State will not only benefit, it's also going to benefit, the country because a lot of people going to Abuja, they pass through that road. If you can fix that road, by through partnership, with the federal government, I think, or even other development partners like AFDM, African Development Bank, AFDP, which Ekiti State is now doing, in terms of the Akure, Ado, Dua carriageway. So I think it needs to see that major road as a major, as a very important asset that it needs to fix.
Do you see him perhaps focusing on tourism in a certain way? Since we all see him as someone who is interested in entertainment and all of that, what do you see him doing? How do you think he will turn things around in the aspect of tourism in the state?
No, he spoke about tourism, to his credit.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in Osun to show off, really. There are enough tourist sites in Osun. I see him drive traffic, people from outside the country to Osun for tourism, and that will make money. He has that connection, I'll give him that credit. Because the family, I told you I knew the family.
Yes.
They have been abroad for a long time. And the brother, Dr. Adeleke, is also well connected. So he can drive traffic.
Perhaps he can use that to boost the internally generated revenue
I
for the
was
state.
going to come to that.
Yeah.
He needs a lot of intellectual support to do something about IGR. Because already, the people in the state have an impression that, oh, this is a jolly man. They think everything will come free. They think it's time to dance all the way from morning till night. Where is the money going to come from? And governance is different. When you give out stomach infrastructure, it's different from redevelopment. It's different from when you empower people to have employment. Like Oyetola had a credit loan scheme. I hope he will not put it off. I hope he will improve on it. And let's see what's going to happen. He also talked about agric, to his credit, that he will ensure that agriculture is boosted in that state. But then it's tied to security now. So how does he work harder? He has said he will sustain Amotekun. That is good. But make sure it is beefed up properly. Farmers can go to farm. And what will the government do? I've been hearing in Nigeria's campaign what they will do about agric. Because sometimes the farmers produce, nobody stores, no storage. And then they rot away or they lose money or sell at prices that are not profitable. So he needs to do something seriously also in the area of agric and IGR. IGR, whether the people see him as a dancing governor or not, they will pay taxes. He's going to, in his own interest, he has to do something about taxes there and not depend solely on the federal government. Osun is called a civil service state.
Yes.
He needs to change that. He needs to do more about tourism. Gold mining, I'm still going back to that gold mining. It's there around Ilesha. And he needs to do, well, I want to believe that he can attract foreign investors. I think they can do that. No, they can do that. They can do that, especially with the support of his elder brother. I don't know about him, but I know with the support of his elder brother, they can attract foreign investors and they can attract foreigners to their tourist sites, and that will help to boost the economy of Osun State.
IGR in the state. All right. Another aspect is the health sector. He has spoken about improving the health sector. And I wonder what you would like to see him do to improve that aspect.
Well, before I go into that, I think from what my senior colleague has said, the area of industry, Davido could also be a very good asset, with cousin, I think. Because music, if you go to California, that's, they really a lot of money from, the entertainment industry. So Davido could be a huge asset for him if he knows how best he can, make use of him. So in terms of health sector, I think there is always this perception that, building mega hospitals, in cities and all that. I think primary health sector is what I think it should invest in. Osun has a lot of rural communities where access to health is not available.
Yes.
So it needs to, just like what the late Olikoye, how his program, going to rural areas where most people still are dependent on, ruled by superstition and all sort of things, non-communicable diseases and communicable diseases that could be resolved within a very short time, at minimum cost. It needs to go to primary health sector, ensure that rural areas, are funded. Doctors are encouraged to go and work in rural areas, not just focusing on the mega hospitals that only people in urban areas have access to. So I will think that if we can focus on rural areas, primary health, health care, it's going to make a lot of impact in terms of improving the health care, the health of the state.
All right. We just have a few minutes to wrap up the show. Your final words on this matter, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, congratulations to the people of Osun and the new governor, and we hope that it will take the state to a higher level, higher than he met it, so that at the end of 4 years, the people, their votes will be justified. They will not be disappointed. If they are disappointed, he doesn't get a second term. So he works for himself, he works for the people.
Right. Your final word on this.
Yeah. People are desperate to see changes in Osun, and there's no time to waste. 6 months, they want to see something significant, that has been able to contribute to that state.
All right. I must thank you, columnist, former Labour reporter, editor, Fumi Komolafe, for your time on the show. And I also want to thank you, the executive director, journalist for Democratic Rights, Adewale Adewusi, for your time on the program as well.